I'm a very organized TBR reader. No, it's so hard. What do I do? I don't want to start a book and DNF it and start one and DNF it. So instead I've decided to start every single book on my TBR shelf. We're fine. Everything's fine. I can't believe I cracked the code to mood reading. Rereading. This is how mood readers end up reading 5 things at once. I feel like I have ruined reading for myself. Hello friends, I'm Kayla and I'm a mood reader. I put it on a shirt, so it must be true. Okay, you caught me, I'm not a mood reader, but I want to be. I just want to try it out for a couple weeks as a little experiment to see how my reading looks. I'm a very organized TBR reader. I read and make content, I read new releases, I figure out ways to make content from the books already on my TBR shelf, I read things that are becoming movies. I've always been this way. We could go back 8 years before I even had a booktube channel and I would talk about the way that my reading was organized. I'm making a very deliberate goal for myself to read every single book that is being turned into a movie in the upcoming year. And I know a lot of people out there don't want to be a mood reader. They think it's an issue, picking up a book, reading 10 pages, putting it down, picking up another book. I'm gonna figure out what a mood reader actually is. Maybe I fit into some of the categories already. Book Riot always has my back. They have an article for everything. Signs that you're a mood reader. You have many unfinished books and a sporadic reading schedule. Absolutely not. You have a huge TBR list that you haven't really touched. I mean, sure, but that's just more because I own a lot of books. I also read a lot of books, so I think it's balanced. You've read widely, but not deeply. Sorry? You're familiar with a lot of titles and genres, but can't always recommend a particular book. Oh, no, I can recommend anything. You've experienced reader burnout and can't follow through on reading challenges. No, I have never burnt out on reading, and I love completing a challenge. You can't really stay committed to a book club. Ah! Not true. That would be so painful. Oh, that's it. Okay. Well, to be a mood reader, I don't think I need to now accomplish those things. I just need to look at my bookshelves. Okay, let's just go to my TBR shelf. This is all the books that I am the most interested in, and I see them all at the same level. I could pick up anything off of these shelves and be as interested as anything else. Here's what my month of February would look like if I had organized it. So I've already read all the things that I planned for videos and experiments. I did a romance vlog, I did a 3rd Time's a Charm vlog, I did the book pulled out of my members jar. And at this point, I would look at my TBR shelves and I would say, okay, what's the next video I'm working on? These 4 right here are for my next cozy mystery vlog. So I would probably start in on these. Then I would think about my book club. We're reading Finley Donovan in February. The live show is in March. And then over there, I had Spite House, which is our March read. Then I would look at the arcs that I have and think, when do these come out? I want to make sure I read them around their release date. Then I would look at the books that I have out from the library. When do they need to go back? When do I need to read them by? Next in the order of operations would probably be, what have I purchased most recently? And what have I purchased full price? So those would be my pre-orders of the year so far. How to Sell a Haunted House, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, The Drift. Then I'd probably think about the books that I bought last year, full price, brand new, and didn't get to, like these ones. Then I'd probably think about, what have I not read recently? Like, have I read a nonfiction recently? Have I read from an Indigenous author recently? Have I read a short story collection recently? I don't know that I'm more in the mood to read a nonfiction ever, but I think about like all of the genres that I read. There's a list of them, and I like to keep things interesting for myself and keep things interesting for my content. But I genuinely think I would be just as interested in reading if I was reading the same genre for an entire month. I just know that I have books on my shelves in every genre, so I might as well switch it up all the time. Then I would think about, what authors have I given 5 stars before, and should I just pick up something from them off my TBR shelf? If I'm gonna make time outside of content, what do I want to read in between those videos? So it makes sense to pick up from authors that I've given 5 stars before if I'm gonna read something random off my TBR shelf. Then I guess sometimes I think about what other people are reading, and if I've heard of anything recently, or I see a bunch of people talking about something and I want to make sure I read that. So I can definitely pull some things off of my shelf that qualify for that. Are you tired yet? If I wasn't doing this experiment, I'd probably read between 10 and 14 books over the next 14 days. And I'm interested to see what actually happens. But as I glanced around and pulled out the last couple books, something definitely jumped out at me, and that's How to Sell a Haunted House. If I wasn't doing this video, I would probably be finding a way to make a video about the latest horror and thrillers that I've added to my TBR. So though this doesn't feel like the moodiest of mood reads, I think this is how I'm going to dip my toe into the next couple weeks start out with something that I probably would have read anyway. I do think I'm in the mood for it. I don't think I know what that means, but I'm gonna kick off the video with this and just update you when I finished it and when I'm picking something else, I guess. I don't really know how to do this vlog. Okay, hello. I have decided to film this like a regular reading vlog where I update you on the book as I'm reading, because I don't know if there will be that much to talk about the like project itself and mood reading. I'm 80 pages into this, and I guess we need to check in. Am I still in the mood for it? The answer is yes. I'm more in the mood for coffee though. For some reason, I was under the impression that the book didn't talk about what kind of horror it was, but it turns out that was just me not reading the entire synopsis. So we do follow two siblings in it. They're adults and their parents just died. So the book is divided up into the stages of grief. So I just read denial, and now we'll be getting into anger. So now these siblings who do not get along are tasked with cleaning out the parents' house and taking what they want out of it and then selling the house. Now they're very different people and they're handling things very differently. Not just handling their grief differently, but what to do with the house. One of them just wants to sell everything, completely gut the place, not look through anything, find any sentimental items. And the other wants to spend more time in the house discussing every piece, including all of the dolls and puppets that their mother collected. So that's where the horror comes into it. I guess I would say I'm in the mood for this because it seems to be the type of story I really enjoy, which is a mix of conversations about grief, but then also thrilling and horror type elements. I'm also in the mood for it because I've never given Grady Hendrix a 5-star, though I've read so many things from him. I consistently give him a 4, and I really want to win. I'm now 3/4 of the way through. We've made it to depression. And here's my dilemma. This isn't going to be a 5-star. And so if I'm trying to read like a mood reader, would a mood reader be DNFing right now? Like, I get the gist of the story and it's going to continue for 100 more pages. I'm 300 pages in, and I just don't think it's the one for me, but I'm not disliking it. So I feel like I'm still in the mood to read it, to know how it ends. I guess I'm going to finish it. I feel like I want to be able to recommend this to people because I think it has the potential to be a really beloved horror book, but it's definitely more the vibes of the Final Girl support group than, say, my best friend's exorcism, which I preferred. It's not in the Final Girl support group vibe as in the actual level of paranormal, but more so in the way that it feels like a ridiculous horror movie where stupid people keep going back to the same situations, and we have repetitive scenes of people getting injured and then like they're just fine the next second, and it just like keeps happening, and not in a flawed way, just in the over the top, almost satirical feeling way that I think a lot of people will love. I could not have predicted where this plot went. Like, it's gotten so weird. I don't know that it's my #1 type of horror, but I definitely have never read a horror book like this. Let me go finish it, give you my final thoughts. Okay, keeping it short and sweet, this was a 3. I think he accomplished everything he set out to do, which isn't something that I would say about all of his books. I definitely don't think this will be for everyone, but I'm not mad that I purchased it or read it or had it as one of my most anticipated reads. I will continue to read this author, and who knows what I'll be in the mood for tomorrow. Okay, today I don't know what I want to read. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. I don't want to start a book and DNF it and start one and DNF it. And that's what mood reading is. So instead I've decided to start every single book on my TBR shelf, which is 100 things. So I'm going to be filming a video over the next couple days where I read the first chapter of all of these, and then once I've filmed that and posted it, I'll come back to you and tell you the decisions that I've made, and maybe I find like 3 to 5 books that I know I'm in the mood for once I have been introduced to the first chapter and have a feel for what they are. Book number 5 is Passing by Nella Larson. Now that is how you write a first chapter. This is a 10 out of 10, and I am hooked. 10. I gave it a 10. I need to continue immediately. I ended up with 17 books that I gave a 10 out of 10 for intrigue. If you watched my first chapter, reading first chapter of every book video, you know that this is where I just left it off at the end, and now I need to pick up my reading because I haven't read a book in 3 days. I've read 1,500 pages, but not a book. But the good news is it's gonna be really easy to pick the next book because I have a whole bunch of books right here that I rated a 10 out of 10 for initial intrigue in that first chapter. And I should have seen it coming, but like so many of them were horror. So I guess what you could say is Either I just happen to have a lot of books on my shelves that are horror that sound really good, or we could take this as it means I'm in the mood for horror. Got this one, this one, this one, these ones. This is a book club read, so I'm not gonna read this yet. This one, 7 books. Now, should I just read these 7 books in the next week and a half? I don't think that's the answer. But if that's not the answer, how do I pick which one to start with? Because I gave them all the same intrigue rating. I already read the first chapter of each. I think I just need to look at them all and pick one. No, it's so hard. What do I do? It's these 3 that are calling to me. And I still have the audiobook checked out for this one. So I'm gonna do Don't Fear the Reaper. I didn't think I would be getting this as soon as I did, but obviously it's a new release, so I wanted to. My mind wanted to, and now my heart wants to. What a win. I've only gotten about 50 pages more in. I just posted my video. No, I'm not crying because of your beautiful comments. I just took a bath. But I just posted my video, and I'm only now realizing how absolutely unhinged it just was that when I go off schedule and I try to mood read, instead what I do is spend 3 days reading 1,500 pages and making an hour-and-a-half long video about it. Today, Rob and Liam skipped school and work, and they're snowboarding, and I'm left at home to my own devices. I'm currently live with my channel members. I'm doing these like hangout / reading sprint things once or twice a month where we just check in with each other, talk about what we're reading, and then do a couple reading sprints. I also play some silly daily games. If you want to join my membership, the link's down below. I would love to have you. I have some really fun movie nights and spin-off videos planned that are coming up, but today I'm reading the sequel to this. So this is one of my favorite horror books of all time. It's about this woman named Jade Daniels. She loves horror movies. She has an encyclopedic knowledge of them, talks about them a lot. This is very stream of conscious, internal monologue heavy, and I love it so much. And in it, there's like a slasher movie playing out around her. Since she loves horror movies so much, she recognizes the key players around her and like, you seem like you'd be a final girl. You seem like you'd be this person. And then things start to happen around her, but nobody believes her. There's some really heavy topics in it as well. And this is the sequel. It just recently came out. Simon & Schuster kindly sent me a copy. I'm not annotating it too much so I can pass it along to somebody else, preferably an Indigenous reviewer. If you happen to still be looking for a copy, you can message me on Instagram. I know a lot of people have received it and read it already by now. But this one just follows a different killer. So everything's kind of solved in here. And if you read this a long time ago, this one does a fantastic job of recapping things. In fact, there's this entire section, A History of Violence, tells pretty much exactly what happened in the first book, sums it up, and also all of the violence that has occurred on Indian Lake or nearby. So we're learning about the serial killer, and then Jade, who's going by a different name in this one, she is like interviewing people. It's still very much focused on her, but there is a whole bunch of other storylines going on, a lot of other people dying. It's a slasher, and it's so much fun. I often don't pick up sequels because I just don't think they're ever going to live up to the first one, but this one's going really, really well. I think I'm going to finish it up in this next sprint. I finished Don't Fear the Reaper last night, and I'm giving it a 4. I think that it was really, I know, it was like really heavily violent. It was a true slasher. So if you picked up My Heart is a Chainsaw and you were disappointed by the amount of horror in it, which is what a lot of people say, like maybe you're not already planning on picking up the second book anyway, but it is like a true slasher. There is just consistent violence is what I would say. Now today, let me catch you off guard with my next pick. This is true mood reader behavior because I didn't even suggest that I was going to read this, but this is what I'm up to. If you saw my try a chapter thing, you know that this intrigued me so much and I gave it a 10 out of 10, but I put it in my more serious category, but I do feel like that's what I was in the mood for. This is How Beautiful We Were by Mbolo Bui. And this is about a fictional African village, but very much rooted in reality and the way that America has come and just destroyed so much and is so focused on like making money and putting in oil pipelines and whatever, that they are destroying a village and people are being poisoned, people are dying, and you have this village who's coming together to fight against it. And the book opens just so interestingly where they're holding some of these people captive. Somebody in the village has felt like this is their moment. They're going to stop whatever is happening. And it's so painful to read because you have all of these people and they're saying things like, if we just get in front of the right person, if we just show them that our children are dying, they will listen to us. And throughout the story, obviously, they're confronted with the fact that no, the company understands exactly what they're doing and they don't care. If you're wondering why I'm in the vehicle though, We're not just mood reading, we're mood shopping. I think the fact that the Indigo website is down is just aligning with the mood reading situation, because I can't plan ahead. I'm a very efficient book shopper. I know exactly what I want. If I'm not like ordering ahead and then picking up at the desk, if I am browsing, I know exactly the books that I already want. I know what section they're in. I'm very organized. I know how many are in stock, but the website's been down for weeks now. And I have done some pre-orders at Mosaic Books and a different book list for March that I don't think Indigo would be able to fulfill because they're so behind in orders. Their entire system is broken now. But I did just get this email saying that if you come in store, they're offering 20% off your entire order as like an apology. So I'm just gonna go into Indigo today and browse with no plan of what I want. Hi. I didn't buy anything. Oh, I was in there for half an hour. I started out in the horror section, naturally. That's what I thought was calling to me. The couple books that I was interested in picking up, I needed to cross-reference if they were available at the library, and they are. I'm never about to pay full price for a book that I can get at the library within a couple weeks. Then I just started looking at covers. I pulled out every single book, and every single one that I picked that I loved the cover, it was a short story collection, which is very interesting. There was a couple others I was gravitating towards, but yeah, every single one of them was available at the library. So we're now going to the library. It's obviously not just that it was available at the library, it's that I got overwhelmed. I 100% got overwhelmed. Without a plan, I read like 10, 15 synopsises, and I was just like, I don't know. This is a safer option. Okay, we're headed into here. I actually think mood reading has transitioned into mood living this last week. I keep meaning to do things and then I'm not in the mood for them, so I just don't do them. And now I'm backlogged on a lot of like work stuff, some photo editing, some organization for like videos and projects and group chats and live shows, and answering emails. So I'm gonna spend the next couple hours in front of my computer getting all of that done. In between things, or when I can pay attention, I'll be listening to the audiobook. And here's everything that I got from the library. Bliss Montage by Ling Ma, who I just read Severance from. I am obsessed with this cover. I also grabbed Quantum Bullshit, Black Ghost of Empire, The Long Death of Slavery and the Future of Emancipation. I grabbed A History of Fear, Dear Santhurin, the only Akwaeke Emezi I haven't read. They also had this, which I didn't realize was this short, even though I knew the end, by C.L. Polk. And then they also had Strega. Then there was this one, which is a romance. So if I happen to be in the mood for a romance, I've got one. It's Partners in Crime by Alicia Ray. So what am I in the mood for? No idea. My current read. That's what I'm in the mood for. We're fine. Everything's fine. Good morning, my friends. I have many things to update you on. I'm just getting ready for my day, and it's already like noon. But first of all, I finished this. Stunning. A beautiful, beautiful book. It's heart-wrenching, it's sad, it's complex. There's a bunch of different narrators and timelines, and it kind of feels like putting puzzle pieces together. There isn't really a mystery or like reveals or anything. It's not that type of book, but there are many times in the book where you're left with not a full scene. You only get pieces of it. So for example, there will be, say, a group of people traveling somewhere, and rather than at the end of the chapter, you see them arriving the place they've been traveling, in the next chapter, you see the impact that them arriving had, but you don't actually see the reaction to them arriving until the end of the next chapter, or sometimes not until a couple chapters later. So you're constantly waiting to fully understand the context of all of these scenes and all of these people and what they're doing and where they are. And that just ended up being a really compelling storytelling style that I enjoyed so much. It's a pretty long book, like it's only 360 pages, but it's really dense. At the halfway point, I was wondering where the story was going to go, because it felt like a lot of things were wrapping up. And something that I thought was kind of missing from it was the acknowledgement that like America sucks in America too. It's not just what they're doing to other countries. And so I was wondering if we were going to touch on that, and then we completely did. There was in fact characters who went to the States, because one of the big focuses of conversation in here is like, again, if we get in front of the right people and we say the right things, they will fully understand the gravity of what's going on. So coming full circle and having the realization that America is just as destructive to its own land and its own citizens is just as harrowing, like discovering that America has pipelines in America. There are children dying in America. Waters are poisoned in America, which is not something that you would ever consider when you are in a country being destroyed and you're assuming that they would come all the way over here to do that because they want to keep their own citizens safe and happy and healthy. The great news is we got a 5-star. The bad news is I feel like I have ruined reading for myself a little bit. Because I started so many books, somebody commented, you're technically now currently reading 100 books. And that just like messed with my mind a little bit. But the fact that I've started so many and given them a 10 out of 10 for their first chapter, it's ruined me for like picking up anything else. So I DNF'd both library books that I started, and I got significantly into these. Strega, I was almost 50 pages into, and I just kept thinking like, this isn't grabbing my attention, this isn't doing it for me the way that these books that are staring at me from my TBR shelf did it for me. I got 2, actually 3 stories into this, and I just ditched it because the first story wasn't incredible. So I was like, I'll read one more, and then it was fine. And then the third one was fine. So now I'm just not gonna finish it, even though I'm already 100 pages into a 200-page book. There was this one about a woman living with all of her ex-boyfriends, and it was very strange. It was my kind of strange, but it just wasn't incredible, I guess. And then there was one about this drug called G that was very odd. And then before these two, I DNF'd this one, even though I knew the end. But then once I DNF'd these two, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna push through this. So I finished it, and I'm only giving it 3 stars. And I just feel like I wasted my whole day. Quick review, it's about a detective. It's in the 40s. There's like magic and the devil kind of involved. The premise is really intriguing. This woman has to track down the like White City vampire, who's this notorious serial killer, and she doesn't want to, but she's offered an opportunity she can't refuse because like what is being given to her is very intriguing. And then on that journey there was just more action than I wanted. The romance was there, sapphic and sweet, but then I don't know if it was enough of it. I feel like this could have been a really great 5th book in a novella series. It could have followed this detective through all of these different things, and then this was like the final book where things happen and the big mystery is solved. I needed a lot more pages than this. So now I've spent my morning pondering, thinking about what to start next, trying to figure out what I'm in the mood for. And I'm looking at all of my horror books, and I don't think that that's the right move right now. And I keep being pulled back to this. I don't feel like I'm finished with this exploration. So I started this randomly, Black Ghost of Empire. I just read the intro and I already think this is exactly what I need. These are completely different situations, but the history of slavery and emancipation, which this very much focuses on, is why books of this nature exist, because real life situations like this exist. So the intro talked about you know how much I love books about language and the origin of words. So it started out with just talking about emancipation. It gave a timeline. And obviously we all know at this point that like the end of slavery wasn't really the end of slavery. And also that the end of slavery is so fucked up because it's the slave owners who benefited so much from that because they got so much money to get people to stop enslaving, murdering, kidnapping people. I talked about that, but then also just the word emancipation, embedded in the etymology of the word and its roots in ancient Roman law, is the legitimation of a supposed authority of some kinds of people to trade or sell ownership rights, emancipatio, in other kinds of people. Under Roman law, emancipatio referred to the act of which a patern familias, a property-owning male householder, could voluntarily give up his power, potestas, over other human beings in his household, including children and slaves. Emancipation was thus legally construed as the voluntary grant of an owner not as the righteous vindication of the captives. So emancipation wasn't about, hey, we're free. It was about you have the option to free somebody, which obviously makes sense in context, but just learning the origin of the word is so fascinating. So I think nonfiction is exactly what I'm looking for right now. Oh, hey, good morning. Yesterday I was in the mood to watch a whole season of Gilmore Girls. So that's what I did. And now I've just finished the book I was reading, and I've moved on to Passing by Nella Larson. It was another 10 out of 10. Rob brought sushi home last night and I wasn't hungry, so now I have sushi for lunch today, which is very exciting. The boys went to hockey. I stayed home because I'm doing hockey tomorrow. Should I take down my last holiday decoration? Yes or no? I was just cleaning and I found this bamboo plant on my end table, hidden behind a bunch of things. My mommy gave me this for Christmas and I killed it, but I put it in the window even though it's snowing. And I'm pretty sure the stuff that's on my window to reflect the light reflects everything good. So I don't think I can even grow plants. And maybe that's why my flowers always die so fast and why I'm depressed a lot. Ooh, let's take our vitamin D together. Vitamin haul. Here's the D. Oh, this is a magnesium. Where's my book? I did hop on the treadmill this morning, got my hot girl walk in, and I listened to the last 100 pages of this via audio because I found it on Scribd. But I'm just realizing now I missed all of these pictures. I think this is a solid book, really well written. Wouldn't hesitate to recommend it to people. I'm not in the place of like being able to critically review academic work, which is what this is. It's like not any personal experience at all. It's all history. However, I do think that around 100 more pages could have been added to this that filled out the middle ground of experience, because there's a lot of singular stories, like one person from history telling like about the journal that has been found from them, the way that they experienced the world, the way they were treated, sharing a personal anecdote. And then there's a lot of like big topics, like this entire country, you know, had this happen, or using the same broad term to describe 10 different like titles or experiences, as if like we couldn't understand the nuance of how dynamic things have been. I think if I hadn't read other books similar to this, I probably wouldn't have even noticed certain things. What I will say is if you still to this day don't recognize the issues with like policing and incarceration and groups that are targeted, just pick this up and read chapter 5, if nothing else, to understand the context of how so many things that still exist current day came from slavery, were designed to be loopholes to keep people enslaved. I'm giving this a 4.5. I think it could have been a little bit longer. And now I'm already 3/4 of the way through Passing. And interestingly, it's the same narrator, but I've now switched to reading it physically. And I feel like I'm about to get really mad, because if what's about to happen is what I think is about to happen, I mean, that could very well be one of the reasons why this book is talked about so much. So this kicks off with the opening chapter being a woman opening a letter from a friend, and it says like, that time in Chicago changed the trajectory of my entire life. So you know that something happened between these two women. You find out in the next chapter that one of them, they're both Black women, one of them has been passing as white, and them interacting in public is like kind of, you know, uncomfortable, and there's this worry of being exposed, but maybe like the women both see something in each other in the lives that they're living and want something the other one has. All I have to say is that book did not go where I was expecting. I really could not have predicted that it was going to end that way. This would make such a good book club pick, like a group discussion. So many things to talk about. I think that this would be such an interesting like trio to read back to back, The Vanishing Half and Recitative, along with Passing, because they all have the same theme. But they're told so differently and they're such different stories. So if for some reason you haven't read any of the three, do that. It's always just so interesting to me following a book where there's two women who are navigating the world in similar ways, but different ways. So in this, we have Claire, who I said before is the one who is choosing to pass and what her life looks like. And then we have Irene, and Irene kind of has the ability to pass. And so in certain situations, she will take advantage of that. She will find herself like feeling safer in certain environments. So she relates to Claire on a certain level, but Claire takes it to a whole different place because she's now putting herself at risk because she's married to a white man who doesn't know. This book had a lot of interesting things to say, some that you can expect from the themes, and then it also did some things that were just very interesting and unexpected. We're gonna get back into horror now, and I feel like I will appreciate the horror that I know I'm in the mood for even more because I've taken like 3 books away from horror now. I feel like this is gonna be a quick one, and then I'm gonna continue on in this because I'm already 40 pages in, and the longer I go without reading it, I'm gonna forget things that happened. So A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher is 240 pages. Maybe I won't finish it today. Anyway, these are the next 2 things that I want to read. We've got a bear and a vulture. I'm not feeling particularly compelled to finish this. It's just okay right now. The first chapter was interesting. This woman goes back to her grandmother's house where her mother's currently living. The house keeps reverting back to the way it used to look. Like her mother's painting the walls and putting up weird, questionable artwork. So like, I think her grandmother's spirit is just like really strong in the house, or the house wants to be a certain way. It's reminding me a little bit of just like Home by Sarah Gailey. It's just generally unsettling and you don't know the reason for anything. And I feel like you're not going to until the very end. It's not really holding my attention. I've picked it up and put it down probably 20 times. Everything and anything is distracting me. So I guess I'm not in the mood for it. So maybe I'll be in the mood for it tomorrow. All right, pop quiz. Did anybody catch what I did in the last clip? Oh, right. Not mood reading and also building a TBR. Yeah, I did that. I said, I'm not enjoying this. I don't want to be reading it. But when I'm done, you know what I'm going to read? This. So this morning I just filmed a video. I'm going to edit it today. I don't know how much reading I'm going to get in. But this is how mood readers end up reading 5 things at once, because they just stop and then pick up something else. So that's what I'm going to do. I just almost ruined the entire experiment. Like, I'm in the mood for this. This is what I want to be reading. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to plan to read it. I'm just going to pick it up immediately because it's what I'm in the mood for. Will I return to this? I don't know. Hi, it's been a while. I'm going to bed. But I thought before I do, I'll tell you where I got to in the book. It was a pretty busy day, but I got to 250 pages. So just over halfway. It's a slow moving book, or rather it's more dense than it seems, maybe. But if I didn't explain it in this video, this is where this woman goes to her grandfather's old house and she is kind of renovating it to live there. She's escaping a bad situation with her son. That's set in 1989, and then there are flashbacks to like the 1920s and earlier of other things that went on this property and in this town and related to this family. And it's fun how often the perspective switches, and sometimes just in the middle of a page, like you'll be reading from the son's perspective and then you're in the mother's perspective, and then you're back in the day because you're reading journal entries that the son is actually reading. The horror itself for the first third, I was like, okay, so it's this spooky house story. Like there are lots of descriptions of rats and spiders, and suddenly the kid's nose is bleeding, and I didn't know if I was waiting for like a ghost to come or what. Now halfway through, I have a better idea of what the horror is. Listen, something lurks beneath the soil, ancient and hungry, okay? It's right there. I am having a great time. I'm sad about going to bed, but I'm excited to wake up, and I don't have any plans in the morning, so I'm gonna read in the morning. That's very unlike me. I did end up finishing The Hollow Kind bright and early this morning. I feel like it kind of started to go on and was a little too action heavy for me. I'm gonna reserve my official review for my wrap up in a couple days. I feel like I want to give it a solid 3, but I also give How to Sell a Haunted House a 3, and I would objectively say I liked that one less than this one. So either I'm moving that rating, or no, this is not above a 3. It was okay. The first half that I read, it was super intriguing, and then it like was just okay for a bit, and then it was super intriguing again around the middle, and then the second half was all just okay. I feel like I would probably recommend this for fans of the Book of Accidents. Not that it's exactly the same, but like length and how it's kind of drawn out, and there's just so much action, even though it's drawn out. This is why I need to reserve my review, because I need to think about this more. I do feel like I've been reading a lot of dude horror lately. Me just creating a new subgenre. And I feel like that could get misconstrued, like women can't write something or men only write something. That's totally not true. But I just feel like a lot of the horror that I have just read is by dudes for dudes. Today I've just been working a lot. I finished this like, I don't know, 8 hours ago now, and I haven't felt inspired to pick up anything else, anything new, even though I'm in the middle of 100 books. So you know where I'm gonna take you? Is to my read shelf. What do you think? What do you think? Mood reading for some people, I believe, is rereading a lot because you maybe are looking for a certain feeling, a certain sense of magic that you only get from books where you know what to expect. So I think it's normal for mood readers to fall back on favorites. And I have said before that I don't reread a lot. I think it's just hard to make time to reread when I know I'm making content and I'm just interested in new, bright, shiny things. And so when you tell me to mood read, like occasionally I'll get a comment about like, I just want you to read things that you like or things that you're interested in. And that is my TBR. 80% of my TBR, maybe 90% of my TBR is things that I picked myself. Even if I'm reading for a specific video, I have curated the TBR a lot of times, or I'm building a TBR based off of things I'm already interested in. But if I'm really thinking about something that I look at and I think I'll never get around to that, is all of these that I've already read. So here's the overview of my shelves. If I'm thinking about what do I want to experience again, it probably doesn't exist in the middle because these are all mystery thrillers. These are speculative, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, or I gravitate over here to like contemporary stories that I know are probably good or like would be good to reread because romance and like the comfortability of that. But yeah, no, as far as genres, that's not calling to me. What's calling to me might be horror. I have never reread Bunny, and that haunts me sometimes. I originally read House of Leaves 2 years ago and said that this is something that I could see myself rereading every year. Ooh, you know what also is calling to me though? We Ride Upon Sticks, another all-time favorite I've never reread. These two, for some reason, are also calling to me. A lot of times when I'm rereading books, it's about like reflecting on my taste, seeing if it's changed, seeing if my favorites were questionable. And I don't know that I want to do that. I just want to get into a certain world that I miss being in. I can't believe I cracked the code to mood reading. Rereading. You'll never guess what I picked to reread. Or maybe you will, because I just showed it to you. It's Bunny. I'm halfway through. I'm having a grand old time annotating this, rereading my favorite sections. I didn't even know were my favorite sections until I reread it. Because the first time through, you're like halfway before you, maybe you have to read the whole book before you understand anything that's going on. You have Samantha. It feels so weird to be pitching this. She is in an MFA program. It's a very small group, just her and a couple other girls, and the other girls have a very tight-knit little friendship group. They call each other Bunny. And at one point they invite Samantha into their little coven, if you will, and they start to introduce her to the weird things they do when they're together. 50% of my enjoyment of this is the plot and how weird it all is, and 50% is the writing. Like, it's just odd and gritty. It definitely uses some uncomfortable language, and it's the characters themselves are saying these questionable things. And once again, I don't want to go to bed and stop reading this, but it's only going to get better and weirder. What can I say about Bunny that I haven't said before? This is elite. This is in my top 5 favorite books of all time. The reread was fantastic. It was just what I was in the mood for. Mona Awad's writing just tickles something in my brain. Even if you're one of those people who doesn't love the plot of this, you cannot deny the writing is incredible, which is why it hurts me so much that like my review is the top review on the Goodreads page of this, because this is so intellectual and Mona Awad is just a very gifted, talented writer. I feel it offensive that other intellectual reviews are not at the top. But yeah, this is just about strange, transformative magic, and it leaves you with so many things to think about at the end and decide for yourself what really happened. And that's my favorite thing. Now at this point, I don't think I've kicked the organizational habit. I don't think I necessarily need to, like that wasn't the goal of this video, but I can't lie and say my brain isn't saying like, read one more book because it's gonna hit an even 10, finish it with a 5-star because that was a reread and it needs to have a better conclusion. Read one more thing or 2 more things from this shelf because you're gonna disappoint somebody that you're so excited to read, you know, one of these fantasy books or mystery books. Something I haven't really touched is thrillers and fantasy and sci-fi, but there are ones that I gave a 10 out of 10 for intrigue. And I can't let myself take the video in a direction that is meant to like satisfy something. We are all gonna go out, as in all my family. We're going out for dinner tonight and just to go like hang out, shop, whatever. And I have some things to pick up at the library for a future video. But in the couple hours until we leave, what I was thinking is I'm gonna look through my Instagram bookmarks because I save so many books that I think I want to read or I just want to look more into. Or maybe something that was a lot of people's favorites that I didn't get around to. Oh, that's funny. I completely forgot I did this a couple days ago. I saved all of Litula's In the Mood For posts. So maybe I could like look through them and pick one based on the little description above each book, but that's a lot of new releases that I was saving to remember them for a video. I actually think this reread of Bunny has inspired me to do a mini Lalathon for channel members at the end of March, like during my birthday, because I definitely want to reread some more things. I remember something being in some favorites that I wanted to return to. Oh my gosh, it's right there. Okay, Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin was in, I want to say between like 5 and 10 people's absolute favorites of the year. And it's always so interesting to me when that happens, when it's an older title, because I'm like, what made people pick it up all of a sudden? Was it people inspiring other people? Was it on some kind of banned book list? Was it republished? Like, was it the 50th anniversary or something? Here it is on a few people's lists. And I want to know what it is. Can I be in the mood to read something without actually reading the synopsis? Let's see if it's at the library, and if it is, then that's a sign. I don't think I'm in the mood for a certain book or a vibe right now. I think I'm in the mood to just read something popular that I think could be 5 stars because so many other people gave it 5 stars. It is indeed at literally at my branch. What am I doing? I don't know. We're home. I secured Giovanni's Room. I have definitely like heard of this author before, never read anything by him, but this is one of his more well-known ones, but I hadn't heard of it. That's my bad. Apparently it's a really well-known and beloved queer classic. It's from, I want to say 1956. The language is absolutely beautiful. I'm already regretting not going out and buying one so I can highlight. It's set in Paris. Our main character is David and he meets Giovanni, who is a bartender. There's a couple other characters involved so far, but here is them summed up in a quote for each one. David's opinion of himself is very strong. He has a lot of things to say about his personality, knows himself very well, but he says, "I am one of those people who pride themselves on their willpower, on their ability to make a decision and carry it through. This virtue, like most virtues, is ambiguity itself. People who believe they are strong-willed and the master of their destiny can only continue to believe this by becoming specialists in self-deception. Their decisions are not really decisions at all. A real decision makes one humble. One knows that it is at the mercy of more things than can be named, but elaborate systems of evasion, of illusion, designed to make themselves and the world appear to be what they and the world are not." I just really love that introspection. And then Giovanni, they meet and they're brand new friends, and he questions for some reason if Giovanni's gonna poison him. And Giovanni says, "Why would I want to poison you? Then I would have no job, and I have only just found out that I want to live." There was also this moment where their other friend Jacques said, not many people have ever died of love. They're talking about like spreading love and sharing love, how you should just be open to different relationships and experiences. And he says, "Not many people have ever died of love, but multitudes have perished and are perishing every hour, and in the oddest places for the lack of it." Ooh, I like it. I like it. I can see that this should be a 5, and I have no reason for not giving it a 5, but I don't know that it had that feeling of a 5, coming off of a couple 5 stars in the last couple weeks. I think it's a really hard story to read, would be for anybody, not just because it's grappling with these issues and sad things happen. Like, this is a tragic story, and I don't think that would be a spoiler. And probably also not a spoiler that David is essentially promised to another at the beginning of the story. So it's hard to read in that it's sad, but it's also hard to read because there's what's obvious to us in 2023 of being a lot of internalized misogyny and homophobia. At the same time as having characters who have accepted themselves and are going for what they want, society is pushing against so many things, and you have had decades of being told what a man is, who a man should be, who a man should be with. And since I believe David to be coded as bisexual, there is this decision that he gets to make, to be with a woman and follow what he considers correct morality, and to set up himself for an easier life, or go with maybe who his heart belongs to more. It has beautiful writing, has good messages, but I think without even intending to be, in this day and age, it is more of a cautionary tale. And for all of that, I'm gonna give it a 4.75 to be stupidly specific. And I'm gonna buy myself a copy. Now, if I wake up tomorrow and feel like finishing this, then I'll check in with you about my final thoughts. So I ended up finishing A House with Good Bones just because I was in the mood to finish it, to get to talk about it in my wrap up, but I didn't like it. It's the lowest rated book of the video, and I'm starting to feel this sense of failure with the entire experiment. All in all, I just think this had too many themes going on. We were following this main character who had this interesting job, like archaeology, entomology. It was about bugs, and then the bugs came into the story itself in a creepy way. But then we were also talking about her like racist, terrible grandmother, and then we were also talking about this like other ancestor that she had, and she was like doing all of this research, and there was also the relationship with her mother, and there was also everything happening like with the house, and there was also this neighbor who she was having this bit of a romantic relationship with, and there was another woman who knows her mother. It just felt like there was too many moving pieces, but they all weren't enough in the story to make me care about each individual thing. So every time we switched to focus on something else, I was like, what are we doing? We've only got 200 and a bit pages here. Like, let's focus a little bit more. Definitely not a scary horror, but wasn't fun and quirky enough that it was like a horror I enjoy in that way. I feel like this could have been cut down by 100 pages and put into a collection of like 4 novellas, because there were some good things in here, some like spooky ideas, but then it just got so chaotic and action-packed, and I just don't know how to feel. So the mood reading experiment is over. I read 10 things. It's definitely not as varied as I want to say I thought it would be, but I guess it's just not as varied as what my usual reading looks like. I pretty much only have horror and then like harder hitting topics, real life and nonfiction and like seriousness, which is definitely what I was in the mood for. It's just like there's only 2 real vibes represented here, which is interesting. But then when you look at the horror, there were 3 I didn't love, and then there were 2 that I really enjoyed, and my favorite of the entire project was a reread, which is good because when else would I have ever gotten to that? And then with these 5, definitely majority wins. You can tell I'm almost always in the mood for a short story. I just love the idea of something being wrapped up really quickly and having a punch. If not for doing this video, I don't think I would have read any of these 5 in this month, but it was more so because of this video that I ended up reading, well, I guess 2 of the 5, and then when would I have ever gotten to a classic? This I just found at the library. So it was fun in that I feel like I did mood read. I don't know that it's the most satisfying experiment because there are still so many things that I'm interested in on my TBR shelf that I didn't get to. But I ended up reading the same amount of books that I probably would have read if I had a structured TBR going, so that's interesting. I'm always still in the mood to read. I definitely don't think I can consider myself a mood reader now, but if you are and you want the shirt, I'll link it down below. I shared the shirt early with my channel members. A bunch of people picked it up. My friend Naomi, it looks so good in this colorway, and now I want it. But I'm not going forward in my life being a mood reader, I don't think. I probably mood read like 5 to 10% of the time, and I'm gonna go back to that because when I don't have structure, I just feel lost. I just have too many options to choose from, and that leaves me overwhelmed, I think. I probably could have DNF'd more. I know I technically finished 2 books that halfway through I kind of wasn't in the mood for anymore. But what I know about myself is I'm in the mood for videos. There are definitely video concepts that I'm in the mood for. And so that kind of leads my TBR into certain directions. Like right now, I'm still really in the mood to make horror content. So there is going to be a horror video coming out in March. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey, and I will see you very soon. Bye.